There wasn't a shortage of people on the financial media saying, you see, we told you gold was a bubble. We told you silver was a bubble, right? They thought it had popped. They don't understand that nothing changed. But as I mentioned, I don't want to repeat what I said on Sunday. So if you didn't see that video, go to my Schiff Gold YouTube channel and watch it. I think it was the most popular Friday market wrap I've done. We had over 200,000 people who watched it. So it was, I guess, a timely podcast. But if you're not one of those 200,000 people, then you should go check it out. Because I discussed, the plot behind the sell-off. I didn't think it was a random event. I thought it was strategically done to achieve a certain result. But the people who, were writing the obituaries on the gold and silver bull market, I think were premature. Now, I don't think you're going to immediately hit new highs, certainly not in silver, because, new highs are 30% higher, right? You're at $90. You need to go up a third, $30 to get back up to 120. But I'm very happy with a slower, steadier increase. It was getting difficult, for people to buy silver when it was rising so fast. It was a little scary. It's not nearly as scary now that you know where the top was and that you're clearly not buying it, right? You're buying a very substantial pullback. Yes, you're still having to pay $90, which may seem like a high price, but it's not $120. Some people paid $120. So you're getting a good buy at 90. And the same thing with gold. $5,000 gold, yeah, it seems expensive, but somebody paid $5,550. So you're not buying a high. And of course, those are not the highs. This bull market has got years and years and years to run. So we're not even in the vicinity of the high. But there are a lot of people, I think, that were hesitant to come into the market because they were waiting for a pullback. Well, we had it. It's over. You don't have to wait for it anymore. It's now behind us. I think that's going to be particularly important in the mining stocks, because I think one of the reasons that the mining stocks were not rising spectacularly when gold and silver were making these new highs. And in fact, the day that silver made its new high above, 121, most silver stocks were down on the day. So investors were very hesitant, thinking that there was going to be a big pullback. Now, they were right. We did have a big pullback, but now it's in the past. So I think some confidence is going to slowly be rebuilt. And I do believe that silver stocks and gold stocks will make new highs before gold and silver make new highs. And that's very bullish. But it also means that it's a great opportunity to buy into the gold and silver mining stocks. So don't just buy the physical metals. And you can do that, obviously, at Schiff Gold. And by the way, as I was warning, the premiums have widened. So even though silver went way down, the silver coins and bars that we sold, they went down too, but not as much. The drop wasn't as great because the spreads went up, because there was a lot of physical demand to buy the dip. The big collapse happened in the paper market where there is no physical. So that's another factor that you have to bear in mind. I do expect over time the demand to increase and outstrip the supply. And so that's going to keep pressuring the premiums on, especially the smaller coins and bars, 1 ounce coins. So get them now, go to Schiff Gold and get them. But these mining stocks, I'm confident they're making new highs long before silver. I think silver stocks will make new highs by a decent margin before silver gets back above 120, because I think the fear that kept the silver stock investors on the sidelines, I think that will slowly subside as the market starts to repair from the decline and move higher. And this is in sharp contrast to what's happening in Bitcoin. And look, this is obviously not a surprise to my audience. I have been saying this. I've been warning about this. I've been telling you, crypto guys, that, the game is over and you got to get out while you can. Well, Bitcoin right now is at 72,500. Now, it's down. If you want to compare it to gold, Bitcoin right now is 14 and a half ounces of gold. In 2021, at its peak, it was 36.3 ounces of gold. Bitcoin is now down 60% priced in gold since its November 2021 high, right? This is 2026. Now, it's not November, but it's more than 4 years ago, not quite 5, but down 60%. And think about all the things that have happened with Bitcoin, because back then, there weren't, we didn't have the Bitcoin ETFs yet. We didn't have the Bitcoin president. We didn't have the Bitcoin strategic reserve. We didn't have MicroStrategy, and I'm about talk about them in a minute, and all the other copycat Bitcoin treasury companies, right? Despite all that, it went down by 60% in terms of gold. But even if you want to price it in dollars, Bitcoin is less than 6% above its 2021 high in dollars. In dollars. What a lousy return on Bitcoin. And remember, its whole claim to fame, the whole reason you're supposed to buy Bitcoin is because it's the best returning asset. Yet it hasn't been. And the best proof of what a lousy asset Bitcoin has been for most people, not for everybody. Yeah, if you bought it early enough, if you got in on the ground floor, yeah, you cleaned up, of course. But if you got in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, which is when the vast majority of people got in, it's been lousy. And the best example is MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy's average price on about $55 billion spent buying Bitcoin is over 67,000, just over 67,000. I mean, 76,000, just over 76,000. We're now barely above 72,000. So he's down about 4,000 per Bitcoin. I mean, what is that, 6% or something like that? He's lost money on the Bitcoin. The biggest Bitcoin buyer in the world has lost money. MicroStrategy would have been much better off doing just about anything else. I mean, obviously, had he bought gold and silver, it'd be night and day. But Strategy could have just taken all that money that it spent buying Bitcoin and just put it in a money market. And it would have had a positive return, would have got 4% interest a year. So 4% for 5 years, that's plus 20%. Instead, it's down 6%. Now, of course, if you owned MicroStrategy stock, which, by the way, hit a new 52-week low today, it's now down more than 75% from its peak price last year, 75% down on Strategy stock, was down 4.7% today. So it's at 129. Now, yes, before Saylor went on his Bitcoin buying binge, the stock was below $20. I forget exactly where it was, but I'm pretty sure it was less than $20. So if you happen to own MicroStrategy back then and you sold out, at any point, including even selling out today, you did good, right? You made money because MicroStrategy bought all this Bitcoin. But the actual decision to buy Bitcoin was a bad one because Strategy lost money on the Bitcoin. As I said, Strategy would have been better off had it just bought a money market. But then again, had Saylor said, hey, the reason we're going to sell you all this stock is so we can take the money and buy money market, nobody would have paid a premium for his stock. The reason that MicroStrategy, I keep saying micro, the reason that Strategy has gone up so much is because it was able to leverage the fact that it could sell stock at a premium to buy Bitcoin and therefore get what amounted to free Bitcoin And the reason it was able to do that, to accumulate all this Bitcoin, was because the people who were buying strategy stock wanted exposure to Bitcoin. They wanted the upside of Bitcoin with less downside risk, and they thought they were getting that, especially the convertible preferreds. But what the last 5 years have proven is that the people who wanted exposure to Bitcoin were wrong. There was no reason to have exposure to Bitcoin because Bitcoin was a lousy investment over the last 5 years. That strategy has been buying it. But the people who bought stock in strategy didn't realize that. They thought Bitcoin would be a good investment. Turned out it was a lousy investment. And now the party's over, right? The air is coming out of the Bitcoin bubble, and strategy no longer has a viable business model. The problem is he has to maintain the fiction of these preferreds, where he's now raised the dividend from 10% to 11% and now to 11.25%. Of course, there's no income to pay these dividends, so he just has to eat into the principal of his company. But I think we're, in a slow death spiral for strategy. But as the price of Bitcoin goes further and further below their average cost, it is going to compound the problems. Now, I know Saylor says, well, there's no point where I'm ever going to have to sell Bitcoin. There will come a point, because at some point, the notes are due, right? The ones that actually have a set maturity. And he's going to have to come up with the money. And so the only asset that he's going to have on his balance sheet is Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is going to have to be sold eventually. But the other thing that might force the sale of some Bitcoin is a big discount to NAV, which I think is going to happen. I think you're going to see strategy trading for half of the value of its Bitcoin. And that will put a lot of pressure on Saylor to close that discount by selling Bitcoin to buy back strategy stock. I mean, obviously, he'd be a fool not to do it, but then again, he'd be a fool to do it, I guess, because the minute he started to sell Bitcoin, the price would implode. So he's going to be boxed in a no-win situation. So it's just all lose. So you want to get rid of your Bitcoin. You want to get rid of your strategy. Yes, even though strategy is on a 52-week low, remember where the stock came from. It was below $20, and it's going back below $20 because the only thing it's got is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is going down. And so if you've got it, you want to sell it. But the best thing you could do, obviously, is to try to make back the money. Some people now are going to say, well, Peter, I bought my Bitcoin at 80,000 or 90,000 or 100,000. I don't want to lose money. You've lost money, right? That's already happened. If you want to make back the money that you lost, don't think you have to make it back with Bitcoin, because you'll probably just end up losing more. Where you can make back the money you lost on Bitcoin is in gold and silver, or in gold and silver mining stocks. And I think the sooner you make that switch, the easier you'll be able to make up that loss. Anyway, we got a quick commercial break. Coming right back, so stick around.